in 1996 with the University of Kentucky. He's coached the Knicks. He's coached the Celtics in the NBA. Other than that, not a lot going on in his life. We welcome in Rick Pitino, who is also the author of a brand new book, The One-Day Contract, How to Add Value to Every Minute of Your Life. Hey, Rick, how are you?
I'm doing great. Middle of practice, and things are going well.
Well, let's talk for a second about Louisville. And you were on ESPN the other day, and you're talking dynasty with that club, correct?
Well, I think it was taken out of context a little bit. I was saying to a group of alumni and friends at a luncheon that we've now won 2 back-to-back conference tournaments in the Big East and back-to-back Final Fours, and if we can win another conference tournament championship 3 in a row and then 3 Final Fours in a row, not too many teams have done that. It is a lofty goal. It is very difficult to do it, especially with a new basketball team, but it's certainly a goal of ours to try and accomplish that feat.
Is a dynasty harder? I mean, to me, there's been a couple. I mean, you could call them dynasties. I mean, in hockey, the Islanders won 4 Stanley Cups in a row and then went to the finals and lost in the finals the 5th year. No one has done that in sports since then, 4 in a row and go to the finals in the 5th. Is it harder to establish and have a dynasty in college, let's say for 3 or 4 years, than in the pros for 3 or 4 years?
Well, the thing about the pros, and whether it's hockey or whether it's the NBA, a little different in the NFL, is you have a series, and generally, a hot team that has more talent is going to prevail because it's a series. But in the NCAA tournament, it's 1 game and you're out, and it's very difficult to win 3 or 4 games in a conference tournament and then win 6 games or 4 games in a row to go to a Final Four. So you have to win 7 or 8 games. Last year we won 16 in a row. It's difficult to get on that type of run, especially when it's 1 game and you're out.
Right. All right, let's talk about the book. One might expect this book, if you had told me Rick Pitino was going to come out with a book after winning the NCAA championship for the 2nd time, that the book would focus on that. But this book, The One-Day Contract, I think you were having a conversation with your brother-in-law, and he noticed what so many average sports fans notice, and that's these players sign big fat long-term contracts, and you think, well, where's the motivation? Where's the skill? If I screw up at work, I'm out. And then you took it from there.
Well, it started many years ago at a New York tavern, and I believe I was with the Knicks, and Atlanta Hawks just made an offer sheet to John Koncak, and he was averaging less than 3 points per game. I think they signed him to a $21 million contract, and his response was, I don't get it. How can you pay somebody that much money when he's averaging less than 3 points? And I said, well, he's a 7-footer, and it's based on potential. And I said, you guys on Wall Street are under contracts. He mockingly stated back to me that they're on one-day contracts. They're only as good as their last trade. So that's where I got the title from, and it's basically something I've done the last 2 years. Even though I have a multi-year contract, I said I'm going to change as I'm getting close to 60. I was using it as a motivational tool for myself to meticulously prepare the night before, and then that day live on a one-day contract. That the way I network, the way I motivate my team, the way I handle radio shows, TV media people, recruiting abilities, everything that goes into the focus of a one-day situation. How would I go about realizing that I would be evaluated on that one day whether my contract gets renewed? And for the last 2 years, that's the type of passion I've lived under, and it's worked out quite well in getting the most out of the limited abilities I do have.
Well, that's good of you to say, but many would say that you're very talented. But then you talk about in your book the quote from John Wooden, of course, legendary UCLA coach: "Talent is God-given, be humble. Fame is man-given, be grateful. Conceit is self-given, be careful." I mean, I think that kind of speaks to every point you can make.
Well, the book does start. It all begins with humility. And that's not something I've carried throughout my lifetime as a young coach. I was very small on humility and very large on thinking I knew all the answers. And
little brashness, maybe?
Yeah, I wouldn't say, but I was very hardworking, very passionate about it, but I tuned everything else out. And there's a world out there that you must recognize and give credit to. And I'll give you a prime example. As a young coach, you lose a game, you shake the coach's hand, you walk on. Now I'm very cognizant of making sure I give the proper credit to the coach and the team that just beat us. Gracious in defeat, as Coach K always is. He probably is the modern-day John Wooden in setting the standard for humility, for graciousness when you lose, and not giving that what I call the blow-by handshake. You know, it's a
right.
And then you know, I talk a lot about how you have to focus today because there are so many incredible traps.
I was going to talk to you about one of those traps. I saw you on CBS the other day, and you were talking about social media and how it really affects our kids and our potential. Actually, all the potential for all of us that we could achieve if we went back to the good old days when you and I were growing up, Rick, and we didn't have social media.
Well, I'm not sure today. You know, we have had the highest grade point average in the Big East the last 3 years, and I'm not sure that one of my players could sit there and read a chapter in my book without looking at their phone, without being distracted. And social media today certainly is an awesome piece of technology that you can utilize to gather information. At your fingertips is directions, restaurant ratings, whatever you need in life. But to get carried away with that, so you are part of what I call the distracted generation, a generation that can't have a family meal without looking at their phone. I give you a prime example. I was in Miami a few weeks ago giving this talk. I went to grab lunch with a few friends, and I was watching a young couple with 3 young children at the dinner table. The 3 young children were playing with video games on their iPad. The 2 adults didn't say 2 words to each other the entire lunch. They were on their phone texting people. And I got up, and when I was leaving, I said, "Great family meal" to them, and with my New York sarcasm. They didn't take it as New York sarcasm. They said, "Well, thank you very much." Not one sentence was being spoken to with the children as well as to themselves. And it's just amazing how technology has taken over our lives, and it has distracted us from our verbal skills, from being able to articulate. And I don't want my players walking into to human resources in an interview and not being able to articulate or get the message.
Yeah, we're talking to Rick Pitino, of course, a Hall of Fame coach, the only coach in the NCAA, the first coach to win the title NCAA championship with 2 separate schools. And how does it feel to be in the Hall of Fame and still be doing what you're doing?
Well, I'm quite honored by it, and it was great for my family and all the ex-players that were there that could share in the moment. But as I said that night, and it's really true, I'm not Bernard King or Gary Payton, who went in with me. I was put in the Hall of Fame because it's really true. I'm not Bernard King or Gary Payton, who went in with me. I was put in the Hall of Fame because all the statistical things that they've done with the game. For me, you know, players put coaches in the Hall of Fame, and I'm very, very proud to have coached so many great players.
And that's the humility. Let me ask you one other question: pros versus college, and the restrictions put on the college, the players by the NCAA. Do you think it's ridiculous? You know, there's controversy in college football with not being able to sign a football and getting $1 for it. You know, do you think it goes too far? Should athletes be paid? I mean, you've worked with them so closely, and you know how much they can make a university. Not to say they're not rewarded as well, but where do you fall on that?
I think most people, if you ask that question, believe they should be paid. We just don't know how to do it. When I asked a question of, they have a New York Times writer, and he said it should be the revenue-producing sports. They are producing the money. They should be able to have an autograph session and be paid for that. Certainly, I do agree that the NCAA is missing the boat in a lot of areas. For instance, the NCAA tournament. Parents should be able to be flown in, given lodging, given a per diem for the NCAA tournament, since millions are being made off their abilities. So that's something that should be there. Now, whether or not they should be paid for an autograph or they should be paid for their services, that's the tricky part, because if you're Johnny Football and you go to an autograph signing and a booster from Texas A&M who owns a large company can pay $10,000 for your autograph, would that be permissible, or would it be $25 per autograph signed? So, how do you monitor all those things? So, there are a lot of questions out there that need to be answered. I'm for one. Starting small and having the families be flown into bowl games and the NCAA basketball games and given lodging and pay for the flights of their parents certainly should be normal operating procedure.
I don't want to keep your players waiting. One more though. There's been a lot of back and forth between LeBron and Michael Jordan, and I could take him in my prime, and he's better than me. And blah, blah. Who do you think in their prime, Michael Jordan or LeBron James? If Rick Pitino had to make the first pick in forming a team.
Well, You know, the one thing about Michael, and I coached when Michael was very young. We won the Atlantic Division Championship with the Knicks. We swept the Philadelphia 76ers, and we got beat by Michael Jordan in that sixth game.
Yep.
I will say one thing. Michael Jordan has a competitive disorder. He just will do anything to win a game and show he's the best. I don't know if LeBron has that. I think Kobe has that. But I will say this, that I will go with Michael 1, but I will put Kobe and LeBron as 1A. And the reason I have them 1A and not on the same scale with Michael yet is their careers aren't over. LeBron is certainly young. I put Kobe up there alongside Michael. I won't say I'll put him 1A. I'll put LeBron 1A, and let's see how their careers end up. But certainly those three I would put. Now, for those fans who don't remember, Oscar Robertson, he's a person that averaged a triple-double for a season.
Unbelievable.
How well-rounded is that? and certainly Kareem was one of the greatest scorers of all time, and Bill Russell was the greatest winner of all time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I could have gone deeper into the, but I just wanted to make it between those two. Great answer. Hey, Rick, great luck with the book, The One-Day Contract, How to Add Value to Every Minute of Your Life, and who can't use advice on that. Hope to speak to you again, sir. Good luck this season coming up.
Great, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Take care. My pleasure. Rick Pitino, ladies and gentlemen, and as a frustrated old Knicks fan who used to cover the Knicks for quite some time here in New York, I don't know when they're ever going to win a championship again. But Pitino, imagine you're in they purposely make the Hall of Fame in baseball, for instance. You can't even be on the ballot until 5 years after you retire. Well, here you got Rick Pitino in the Basketball Hall of Fame, still doing what he does, and he's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that's when you know you've arrived. Humility aside. Okay, we're coming back. Steve Malzberg, 877 Newsmax on the Steve Malzberg Show, Newsmax TV and radio.